Welcome to this presentation on the Fuels Reduction and Rangeland Restoration Environmental Impact Statement. Throughout the Great Basin, invasive annual grass expansion and frequent and large wildfires are threatening sagebrush communities. It is estimated that more than 45% of historic sagebrush has been lost. Meanwhile, cheatgrass, one of the most aggressive non-native invasive annual grasses, has spread throughout the Great Basin and beyond. Cheatgrass fills in the natural gaps between native grasses and sagebrush, making it easier for wildfire to spread. After a wildfire, cheatgrass replaces the burned sagebrush and makes an area even more susceptible to frequent wildfires. When sagebrush is killed by wildfire, new sagebrush plants can take many years to become established. Together, cheatgrass and frequent wildfire are removing sagebrush faster than it can recover, even with current restoration efforts. On average, the BLM treats about 370,000 acres each year in the Great Basin, but wildfire burns about 1.5 million acres each year on average. You can see by comparing the map of annual grasses from 1984 to the current map of annual grasses in the project area that they continue to expand. Historically, annual grasses would have been a minor component of sagebrush communities, and there would have been no cheatgrass in the Great Basin, but now it is almost everywhere. Similarly, sagebrush has been reduced significantly, as can be seen in the comparison between the historic and current sagebrush cover maps. When cheatgrass was introduced to the western United States in the 1880s, it was able to get a toehold in many areas already degraded from overgrazing or abandoned farming. As it expanded with each fire or other disturbance, it began to change the natural sagebrush grassland cycle. Native grasses and wildflowers struggled to outcompete cheatgrass, and increasingly frequent wildfires kept sagebrush from reestablishing. Historically, wildfire would have burned in sagebrush communities every 10 to 250 years, but recently some areas are burning every 1 to 5 years. Some areas have burned up to 7 times in the last 20 years. As you can see in this comparison of the fires from 1980 through 1999 to the fires from 2000 through 2019, wildfires are increasing and certain areas tend to burn repeatedly. Historically, fires were often small, usually well under 500 acres, and would burn in a patchy manner, leaving islands and fingers of unburned vegetation. Larger fires were rare. Currently, wildfires are getting large more frequently and burning thousands or hundreds of thousands of acres because of continuous fuel loads of cheatgrass. Here is an example of a patchy burn. You can see the islands and fingers of unburned vegetation, and that can be contrasted with this example of a non-patchy burn. As you can see, essentially everything is burned beyond the orange swath of fire retardant. Pinyon juniper trees are also expanding into higher elevation sagebrush communities. The borders between sagebrush communities and pinyon juniper woodlands are naturally fuzzy and constantly shifting. Pinyon juniper slowly spreads into sagebrush communities and increases in density until a wildfire kills pinyon juniper and transitions the area back towards a sagebrush community. In many areas of the Great Basin, fire suppression at higher elevations has allowed sagebrush communities to transition to stands of pinyon juniper. If pinyon juniper becomes too dense, sagebrush cannot survive in the understory and may be completely lost from an area. In general, areas that receive more moisture and are higher in elevation are better able to resist cheatgrass and recover after wildfire. These areas are said to have higher resistance and resilience. This chart demonstrates the general trend of increasing resistance and resilience as moisture and elevation increase. Resistance and resilience, or R&R, is important to consider when selecting areas to restore. Areas with low R&R may be very difficult to restore, and areas with high R&R may have very little need for restoration. So what do intact sagebrush communities look like? Intact and healthy sagebrush communities have a mix of sagebrush, perennial grasses, and forbs, better known as wildflowers. Naturally, sagebrush communities have a mix of sagebrush stands and more open grasslands with scattered shrubs. Historically, infrequent wildfires would burn some thicker stands of sagebrush and leave grasslands with scattered sagebrush. Slowly, the scattered sagebrush would reproduce and establish thicker stands of sagebrush across the landscape. This process maintained a mosaic of sagebrush stands and more open grasslands within the Great Basin. The purpose of this PEIS is to improve BLM's efficiency in restoring and conserving sagebrush communities in the Great Basin by providing a consistent approach and an analysis of the typical restoration actions BLM uses to improve sagebrush communities. We want to conserve and restore sagebrush communities because they are important. They are home to over 350 species of wildlife and are vital to the rural economies in the Great Basin. Many treatment options are available for restoring sagebrush communities. It is important to select the best options based on the needs and conditions on the ground. The PEIS analyzes 5 categories of treatments. This table shows the 5 categories and example uses for each one. Manual treatments are hand-operated actions like planting sagebrush seedlings or cutting individual juniper trees with a chainsaw. Mechanical treatments rely on machinery like tractors to remove vegetation or plant desired species. Specialized machines like a masticator are used to quickly remove juniper trees. Chemical treatments are herbicides used to remove undesirable vegetation and can be applied by hand with a tractor, helicopter, or airplane. Prescribed fire is burning an area under narrowly defined conditions to achieve desired outcome. This might be burning off a thatch of invasive annual grasses to prepare for seeding desired species. Targeted grazing is concentrating livestock under specific conditions to achieve a desired outcome. This may be to remove a patch of noxious weeds before they go to seed, or to remove a thatch of invasive annual grasses to prepare for seeding desired species. The PEIS considers 3 action alternatives and the no action alternative. The alternative B, the preferred alternative, provides the most treatment options on the most acres. Alternative C provides more limited treatments in a slightly smaller treatment area. Alternative D allows for the same treatment options as Alternative B, but with a much smaller treatment area. As you can see in this table, essentially all treatment options would be available under Alternatives B and D, but Alternative C would be limited to manual and mechanical treatments. Under Alternative C, no herbicides, targeted grazing, or prescribed fire would be used, and no sagebrush would be removed. Additionally, no non-native plant materials would be used. The potential treatment area for Alternative D is based on the 2015 FIAT planning effort that identified the high priority areas for restoration in the Great Basin. For more information, please review Chapter 2 of the PEIS. After the comment period, the BLM interdisciplinary team will review the comments and make necessary adjustments to the PEIS. Then the BLM will issue a final PEIS followed by a record of decision called a ROD. Once a ROD is signed, there is a 30-day wait before the ROD can be implemented. The ROD would not authorize any site-specific projects. Rather, the analysis will allow individual offices to prepare determinations of NEPA adequacy for site-specific projects that align with all aspects of this PEIS, or to narrow the focus of their analysis for site-specific projects to just those aspects that were not considered in this PEIS. Local offices would still be responsible for public outreach, collaboration with stakeholders, and applicable tribal consultation. Offices would also need to perform the necessary biological, cultural, and visual resources management surveys to adequately understand the project impacts. A site-specific decision document would be prepared and signed before implementing site-specific projects. This PEIS is expected to facilitate faster and more efficient NEPA analyses, allow more money to go directly to improvements on the ground, and improve wildlife habitat. Restored sagebrush communities will be more resistant to cheatgrass expansion, and because of less continuous fuel loading, wildfires would burn in a patchy manner. This should result in fewer acres burned and accelerated post-fire recovery. Successful treatments bring degraded sagebrush communities closer to the desired conditions. Successful treatments help resist cheatgrass expansion and improve habitat quality for wildlife. Successful treatments may still take years to return to a functional sagebrush community. The BLM hopes that this PEIS will help local offices do more with their available treatment funds and start to reverse the loss of sagebrush communities in the Great Basin. Thank you for your time. If you have questions about what you have heard or about the public comment process, please email those questions to us at BLM_PEIS_questions@blm.gov, and a member of the ID team will get back to you promptly. Once you have had your questions answered, we encourage you to submit comments to us through BLM_PEIS_comments@blm.gov, or through e-planning, by fax, or by mail as shown on this screen.